Let me get this started. Let me get this started. Get this started. All right. Forgive me. I had to turn the monitors down, y'all. Let's get it. Let's get it going, though. All right, y'all. Gathering in the building. Give it a sec. Peace, peace to everyone coming in the building. Baragani, Islam, Salam, Hetepu, Rahubat, Gino Lako Ninani, Chief Noble Bande, Elamine, Minister Bandele, back in the building for another video. And I want y'all to let me know how this go because I'm using another app. I'm not using StreamYard. All right, so I'm just trying to see how this go. All right. So um, today's video, I'm going to go into this whole thing about the devil, Satan, Lucifer, you know, Baal, all these different, entities that people are, clumping together, they're putting them in one pot and claiming that all these are the same thing. And we all know that there's something to that, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of dig into that tonight. Okay, we're gonna look at the true meaning of these terms so we can get a better understanding, right? So before we get into that, y'all, please go to Amazon.com, right, and check out all the books that we have on sale. Okay. Speaking of like what we're gonna get into tonight a little bit, we got the Canaanite connection. The Canaanite connection kind of goes a little bit more into these things. So y'all can check out that's the new book. We got the Moors Moabite Man. We got the Moors Treaties 1 and 2. If you need something to write down, a journal for anything, get the Afro style journal. All right. And if anyone's thinking about getting married but don't want to go through the legal, through the state, if you will, check out the Guide to a Religious Marriage. Okay. And then if anybody's looking at avoiding the birth certificate and how to deal with the birth certificate, please check out the Birth Certificate Explained. All right. So, like I said, y'all can check out these books on Amazon and other established places. So please check it out. So now that we're done with that, let's get into it, y'all. We're talking about tonight. We're discussing the terms of the devil, Beelzebub or Satan, Lucifer. These terms. These are your more common terms used for what they call the evil, right? Now, I've done a video on this before. So this is going to be like a part two to it. If you guys want to check out, I did a video on this a long time ago. And I kind of go into the basics of the differences between these different titles, right? Because this is what we're going to see today. We're going to understand that these terminologies that we use to describe evil or, the demonic beings and whatnot, all of it is confused and it's perverted. And they've changed the terms, the titles. They've changed the gods, what they mean, based on a particular paradigm. We all know the paradigm is Christianity, right? Christianity has changed the meaning of these terms. Um, it's almost like Christians look at pretty much anything that's not Jesus is supposed to be the devil, right? So we kind of want to look into that. Like I said, now if you want to go to the basics of these things, please check out my earlier video, right? But for this, we're going to look at um, we're gonna look at the history a little bit more about these terms because um, people have confused them, right? So let's get into this. Like, which one y'all want to start with? We're gonna get into this. Let's get into this. What made me even think about this is because, all right, before I get into this, all right, I just want to spill this. What made me even think about this topic today was because I'm reading an article. I'm reading in about what is it? Behold the Pale Horse, right? Let's look at Behold the Pale Horse. I was looking at Behold the Pale Horse, if it's still up, and I wanted to talk about Behold the Pale Horse, and I might do that in another video, right? But it was a particular part in here where I kind of see something about it that I didn't recognize when I read it back in the day. Because I read this, I read Behold the Pale Horse. How many of y'all read Behold the Pale Horse? Um, I read it back in the 90s, and it was very enlightening, right? So yeah, it's not gonna be where I left it at. But what I did like about this book is a lot of what's coming. It did do a lot of foreshadowing and foretelling of things to come, right? The one thing in here that I thought was very interesting was when he talked about the New World Order. Okay, and this is what got me thinking about it, because the New World Order has always been looked at as using demonic forces and things of that nature, right? So let's see. Let's see what it look like on here. Let's see what it look like. Let's blow it up a little bit. See if we can find it. Let's see if we can find it. Okay, so this particular part, it was talking about the Masons, right? Now, I'm not gonna get too far into this because, you know, but I it was something that struck me when I understand it. Okay, look, this is it right here. It talks about everybody knows New World Order and the Illuminati, and the Illuminati was founded by Adam Weishaupt. So it talks about the Illuminati, the Jesuit priests, right here, right? He goes into um, let's see, the Jesuits connection is important, as you'll see later in the chapter. Talking about Rothschilds, of course, right? But there's a part in here. It says Westop advocated for abortion of all order, national governments, abortion of inheritance, abortion of private property, abortion of patriotism, abolition and individual home and family life. Um, but I'm trying to find it. Where did it go? It was a part in here where he talked about Lucifer. Okay, so I'm trying to find it because he's saying that. Where is it? Where is it? Okay, here we go. I went too far. Okay, so it's down here. It's talking about getting rid of aborting all your rights, right? From which civilizations have stemmed, and the abortion of all religions established and existing, so that the Luciferian ideology of totalitarianism may be imposed on mankind. Okay, so there is something interesting about Lucifer. When we discuss Illuminati, we know the term Illuminati means enlightened. So When we talk about Lucifer, which we talked about in the video before, we know that the term Lucifer means light bearer. So for example, we talked about the Statue of Liberty being a light bearer. So it's called a Lucifer. So the term Lucifer is used to engage with light, right? But what I noticed in all of our, books that we discuss about New World Order, about the one world government, or when we're talking about secret societies, particularly Masonic, Freemasons, when we discuss these particular um, ideologies, the term Lucifer is automatically looked at as negative and bad. And so, I've read books, um, New World Order, where they talk about the Freemasons. They worship Lucifer. They practice Luciferian ideas. Okay, just like William Cooper discussed in his book. So what I noticed is that all of them are discussing it from, they're using terms and they're discussing Lucifer and things in the same regards as if it was the devil or if it was the evil being, like an evil demon, right? And so we got to look at these terms because the the Lucifer is not the devil. Okay, Lucifer is not the devil. And I've talked about this. I just kind of go. I want to refresh this because I'm seeing a lot of people discussing this. We're gonna look at this. We're just gonna look at from what they're saying right here, right? So if you look at a quick wiki, we're gonna break this down. They talk about Lucifer. Lucifer is the Latin name. Okay, so this name is what Romans use the term Lucifer. Okay, the term Lucifer um, was used in a different way in Latin than it was in the Bible. Lucifer is the Latin name for the morning appearance of the planet Venus. So basically, when they're talking about Lucifer in Latin in the ancient time, they're talking about Venus. They're saying Venus is Lucifer, which we know is the light bringer or the dawn bringer. But we also know Venus to be uh, called what? The morning star, right? So Venus is also called the morning star, but it's associated with Lucifer, right? Now it says that the entity's Latin name was subsequently absorbed. You hear this? Into Christianity as the name for the devil. So, like I said, like what you find and see is as Christianity becomes the dominant religion in the region, it absorbs older ideas and they convert them into different concepts. So it got absorbed from what it originally meant to the devil. Modern scholarship generally translate the term uh, in the relevant Bible passage, Isaiah 14:12, where the Greek Septuagint read as morning star or shining one, rather than the proper noun Lucifer as found in the Latin Vulgate. The term Lucifer appears in the second epistle of Peter in the Latin Vulgate to refer to Jesus. The word Lucifer appears in the Latin Vulgate to refer to Jesus. The word Lucifer is also used in the Latin version, okay? The Easter Proclamation. So let's just keep it real. It's not what it said is to be. It's not what they're saying. We have lived in the Christian paradigm so long. I want to say something. And this might, I'm not to offend, but Christianity, when it came into its fruition and becomes a dominant religious force, it was very intolerable of other religious views, even other religious Christian views. And so any deviation from, like, let's say, the Catholics' version of Christianity would have been snubbed out. And any science or anything like that. And I'm saying that because Christianity is not an intelligent religion. It's not a it had it was in a time of darkness, of dark technology, dark age. It was in a time where things were behind and backward and very superstitious. So Christianity was not a intellect's religion. And with that being said, most of the followers for a great amount of time were not able to even read the religious literature. So most people couldn't read the Bible because it wasn't translated into their particular um, language until much later. And so Christianity began to take on whatever the Catholic Church hierarchs would make it be. And so Christianity often tried to convert pagan beliefs and and try to make Christianize them. So it's it's important to understand it because we're getting this information and knowledge coming from a time in history where the people were not the most, I won't say intelligent, but they were not the most informed people. They didn't have access to information, particularly nothing like what we have today, right? So this is why we're able to go in and reassemble all this information. So, okay, we're looking at it's saying Christianity as a name for the devil. Modern scholarship generally translates the term in a relevant Bible passage. Okay, so it says as the name for the devil in Christian theology, the more common meaning in English, Lucifer is the rendering of the Hebrew word Hallel. Okay. Now, if you look at it, it got an EL in it, right? In Isaiah, given the King James Version of the Bible, the translators of the version took the word from the Latin Vulgate, which translated it by the Latin word Lucifer uncapitalized, meaning the morning star, the planet Venus, or something light bringing. So they took the version of the word which translated to like uncapitalized, like we said, the Statue of Liberty is a Lucifer. So they were using it as an adjective. Okay. In Latin, the word Lucifer was also looked at as an adjective. So the morning star or the planet Venus. Why is Venus? Because Venus is the brightest star in the sky, just before evening or just before morning, right? Or the grand rising, as we should say, right? So um, it says, as the name for the planet in its morning aspect, Lucifer, capitalized, light bringer, proper noun, and is capitalized in English. In Greco-Roman civilization, it was often personified and considered a god. So Lucifer was some could have been seen as a god. Uh, if you're looking at Venus, the planets are looked at as deities. You know, ancient people deified planets, right? So Lucifer had nothing to do with the devil. Lucifer has nothing to do with the devil. So everybody that's talking about Luciferian and things of that nature, that's not true. Okay, let me go back to the. I'm just gonna check the page. So I'm saying this because we have we have a problem with that, right? We have a problem with understanding that the devil is not what we think it is, right? The devil is not what they telling us it is. Okay, so let's keep on looking at this. Let's keep on looking. I want you to understand Lucifer a little bit more because we're gonna look at the devil too, right? But let's look at Lucifer a little bit more. Now, this is coming from more of an academic perspective right here because I know, you know, I'm using the Wikipedia just to give you a generalization. But now this is a book. Now, if you want to check this book, it's called Reflection: The Early History of Satan. Before Satan was evil. Okay. So we saw Lucifer. So now we're looking at Satan because we all got a thing about Satan, right? Satan is supposed to be the devil, once again. Now, I will admit that the translations of Satan and the devil have a better connection to what they're trying to convey. But what I want you to understand is the earlier concepts of what Satan was. Because they say Satan is the devil. We know the devil is evil. Now, in Christian concepts, the devil is evil, right? So let's look at this. Let's look at this, all right? Let me make sure it's clear enough for y'all to see. All right, so let's look at this. Let me see if I can. I'm gonna try to make this a little bigger. See if I can make it a little bit bigger, right? Let me go in here so y'all can see it. Let me hurry up. I'm trying to, my computer. If you guys, by the way, please like the video. Please like the video. Please subscribe, and please check out these other videos. But I'm trying to go real quick. My butt. I'm trying to make it bigger. Did I just pass it? Okay, zoom. I'm about to make it bigger. So let's try 125. All right, so let's get back to this. Okay, so let's see if it got a little bigger. Okay, so it's saying Satan, Satan, Satan. So that's first of all, the true name of it in English would be Satan, the adversary. It was an ambiguous figure in the early Hebrew text, far from being malevolent. Okay, majestic embodiment of pure evil imagined by Milton. The figure we confront in the Hebrew Bible can sometimes be a source of assistance around the heavenly court. Conversely, and even more surprisingly, Yahweh is depicted in some of these texts as having moral character that is not wholly good. This reflection assesses the way the depiction of Hasatan evolves around various parts of the Hebrew Bible and relates it to the way the character of the devil is depicted in Christianity. So, this figure of Hasatan was like part of what they call a divine council. It's set on the council with Yahweh, and it was part of his job to actually um, to be an adversary. So you know like the biggest thing to look at as an example to that would be looking at Job. You know, didn't they say that Satan was going to and fro in heaven, right? So to me, that's let me know that it still was moving back and forth within the divine realm. Satan had not been kicked out of heaven, or there wasn't this fight, particularly in a way that they try to portray Hasatan. Hasatan was a part of the whole pantheon of gods, which job was to agitate and test humanity. It was the adversary. It was looked at more of a prosecutor role in its ways. It wasn't a being that was stronger or as strong as God and opposed God, and it wasn't a place that you got sent to if you when you died, if you were a bad person. Hasatan did not have that. As a matter of fact, I mean, heaven and hell in Hebrew did not have the same concept as it does in Christianity. Okay, so let me look. Let's look. Let's look. Let's look. Let's go into this. Let's go into this. So, hold on. No, I'm gonna go to this. Let me go to this. Let me put in. Let me put in Satan again because I want you to see try to how they try to make it come out. This is what they've done to Satan, right? I was looking at this earlier. This is what they did to Satan. They turned Satan into Satan. Okay, that's the first thing. The Christians changed the meaning of Satan. Okay, now let's look at this. Let's look at how Wikipedia did it. Satan, also known the devil, and sometimes also called Lucifer in Christianity. See, this is why we think all of these terms are the same. And in Christianity, it says it's an entity in Abrahamic religions. So let's go back to that. Abrahamic religions. Christianity is part of Hebrew Abrahamic religion, right? So they try to put these terms to mean somebody who seduces humans into sin or falsehood. Okay. Now, I want you to look at what it says, though. It says, as an entity in Abrahamic religions that seduces humans into sin or falsehood. So it didn't say that it was evil. It just says that it seduces humans into sin and falsehood. What does that mean? Well, um, if you look at the term, like even Africans and indigenous people had a term for it as well. People call it Sebek. Some people call it Elegua. Those entities are the crossroads. These are entity. Even if you want to look at like mythology, what's it? If you want to look at like German mythology, right? Nordic mythology, Loki is a perfect example. Okay, Loki is a trickster deity, and it often creates mischief and tricks humans into doing things that they might not normally do. Okay, so Christianity, that's the trickster God. They don't call it the trickster God. They try not to call it a god because they're monotheistic. But for all sakes and purposes, Lucifer is a deity, or I would say the devil or Satan. These deities that they are claiming it to be, what they're saying is that they're, um, seducing man in some way. Not that they're not evil, right? Now it says in Judaism. Now this is what I want you to get to. In Judaism, Satan is seen as an agent subservient to God, typically regarded as the metaphor of Yetzer Hara or evil inclination. In Christianity and Islam, he is usually seen as a fallen angel or genie, who rebelled against God, who nevertheless allows his temporary power over the fallen world and a host of demons. So you got the Quran, you got to see these three Abrahamic religions all kind of cling together with how they perceive, um, you know, the evil. They call it in the Quran. They call it Shaitan, or Iblis. It is the entity made of who cast out of heaven because it refused to bow before the newly created Adam, and incites humans to sin by infecting their minds with evil suggestion. The figure known as Ha-Satan first appears, this is what I want you to understand, in the Hebrew Bible as a heavenly prosecutor, subordinate to Yahweh, who persecutes nation of Judah in the heavenly court and tests the loyalty of Yahweh followers. Okay, now this is what happened though. Now they're saying possibly because they understand that Ha-Satan is not the devil. Okay, but possibly due to the influence of Zoroastrian figure, okay, the Satan developed into a malevolent entity with abhorrent qualities in a dualistic opposition to God. Okay, Yahweh grants the Satan, referred to fallen angels, to tempt humans to sin and punish them. So, in the same sense, it's like the Yahweh, which is the Hebrew God, gives the authority to Satan. This is not an entity that is, um, just pure evil on its own. It is being used as a tool to test humans to sin and punish them. So if man does something wrong, there's a something in place that punishes them. If you look at, what is it? If you look at like Greek mythology, right? And we look at Hercules. If you watch any of the movies, they have an underworld. There's somebody who governs the underworld. They're not. They were not. They're not necessarily evil, but they are. They have to do a job that has to be done. Okay. Now it says, although the book of Genesis does not mention him, Christians often identify the serpent in the garden as Satan. So that's another thing. Like there's no true link to the serpent in the Garden of Eden as being Satan. Because any other time the serpent is known as wisdom or knowledge, which at the same time, the serpent was the one that gave knowledge to the garden in the Garden of Eden, right? Enlightened them. So the serpent can be considered a Lucifer because the serpent enlightened man into its true state of mind. So being that man didn't know that they were naked, according to the Bible. The serpent alerts them to this and alerts them to saying, hey, you guys, this will open your eyes. You'll be able to see. You'll be enlightened. So the serpent is more so associated with illumination, which is what Masons, um, articulate with. They tend to say that The serpent is what gave man enlightenment and knowledge. And so that is the illumination, which is why many people will call them Luciferian. Okay. So in the synoptic gospel, Satan tempts Jesus in the desert. And is identified as the cause and illness of temptation. So, even with that, like even in the Bible, when Jesus is tempted by Satan, Satan is always testing man. That's what he's doing. He's tempting Jesus. If you really the Son of Man, or if you really a devout follower of God's word, or if you've made a prayer pact covenant to God, Satan is going to test you to make sure that you are doing what you say you're going to do. Okay. Now, when you look at the Book of Revelation, Satan appears as the great red dragon who defeated Michael the archangel. Now, I'm gonna tell you like this: when we look at the New Testament versus the Old Testament, it's almost like two different books, right? If you guys know what I'm saying, the Old Testament uh, is where you find Satan to be a adversary, a more of a prosecutor role. But when you get to the New Testament is using Satan as a being that's um, causing evil. Now, there are places in the Bible where Satan is gathering people together and this and that, right? But the whole thing about hell, the hellish fire, Satan being over hell, these are coming from the New Testament, and they're coming from Christians. They're coming from Christian theories. They're coming from Dante's Inferno. These things that begin to shape Christianity and shape what they know as the devil, right? It says that he was later bound for 1,000 years, right? Now it says in the Middle Ages, Satan played a minimal role in Christian theology and was used as comic relief figure. Okay, so even in the Middle Ages, so we talking about what the Middle Ages, what in the 1100s, 1200s, back in like maybe 700, 800, possibly not. Well, maybe about 1,000, 1100 AD, right? You're talking about the Middle Ages. They didn't look at Satan as um, evil in that way. Okay. Although Satan is generally viewed as evil, some groups have very different beliefs. Like even with like this, like Satanism, I know that Satanism has a bad rap, right? I'm not saying to be a Satanist, but based on the fact that we know that Satan is not evil, that Satan has qualities about it that could be admired, that people would maybe worship or reverend. Okay. But this is what it said. But it says Satan's appearance is never described in the Bible. But since the ninth century, he has been often shown in Christian art as horns, cloven hooves, usually hairy legs, a tail. Kind of looks like the god Pan, right? Poseidon. And that's what I was trying to remember. Like Poseidon, Pan, Poseidon was the Greek um version that it was in the underworld. Let's look at Poseidon real quick. I just want y'all to look at Poseidon. Because I want y'all to get an understanding. Like they're comparing Satan to Poseidon. They're using Poseidon as a reference to how they're creating what Satan is. Okay. So let's look at it. Let's look at it real quick. Let's just look at Poseidon, right? Poseidon is one of the 12 Olympians, right? Presiding over the sea, storm, earthquake, horses. He was the protector of the sea and of seafarer, the garden of many cities. Okay, he was regarded as the tamer, the father of the horses, right? But Poseidon became lord of the sea when the overthrow of his father. The world was divided by a lot among Cronus' three sons: Zeus, Hades, the underworld, and Poseidon the sea. Okay, so I just, like, you see kind of where we're going now. I must tell you this: Hades is more of a. I wish they had Hades. I want to do Hades because Hades is the underworld. So like it's like they took Satan. It's like the Christians took Satan and they started putting other definitions of other deities into the definition of what Satan is. Right. So let me go back. Let me go back. Let's go back. Let's go back. I just want to go through this because I'm just trying to show y'all. I'm just trying to show y'all something. Okay, this term Satan or Satan is a generic noun meaning accuser. So it's really not like the term Satan is not the name of the devil or the name of this entity. These are all just titles of it, right? Kind of like how God just has titles. There's no real name, right? But Satan, meaning accuser or adversary, and is derived from the verb meaning primarily to obstruct, oppose. In the earlier books, it referred to human adversaries, but in later books, when used without definite article, it can refer to any accuser. But when it is used with a definite article, ha Satan, it usually refers to the heavenly accuser, literally the Satan. So Hasatan is the Satan, right? The Satan. The word with the definite article Hasatan occurs 17 times in the Masoretic text. Okay. So this is where it goes. The word without a definite article is used in 10 instances, of which two are translated diablos. Okay. Diablos. That's when you start seeing it change because it meant accuser, and then the Greek version of accuser is Diablo. So Diablo later became known as the devil. We're gonna look at that. We're gonna look at that and see if it pop up. Let's look at it. Let's see if they got it because it should be in here. Book of Job. Like, see, that's what I'm saying. Book of Job, written around the time of Babylon captivity. In the text, a righteous man favored by Yahweh, describes the sons of God presenting themselves before Yahweh. Yahweh asks one of them. So this is now listen to this. It says describes the sons of God presenting themselves before Yahweh. Yahweh asks one of them, Hasatan, the Satan, where you been? To which he replied, I've been roaming around the earth. So he said, have you considered my son Job, my servant Job? The Satan replies by urging Yahweh to let him torture Job, promising him that Job will abandon his faith at the first tribulation. Yahweh consents, and Satan destroys Job's servants and flock, yet Job refuses to condemn Yahweh. Okay, so this is what they're saying. They're saying that he's sons of God. Yahweh along with other sons of God, right? Sons of God. So Lucifer is part of the sons of God. And this is supposed to be after the fall of Lucifer or whatever, Satan fallen, right? This is this is before or after the set in there, because in the beginning they say in the beginning, in the beginning God kicked Lucifer out and all that. But we talking about Job. We talking about way later on in the book, right? Look at sons of God, meaning sons of Elohim. Okay, the sons of Elohim, the sons of the gods. Okay, sons of God, right? The sons of God were separate enough from the daughters of men, okay, that they warranted such a distinction. Okay, angels. All of the earlier sources interpreted sons of God as angels. So they telling you. Now let's look at this real quick though. Because I'm in the Canaanite states. If you look at the Ugaritic text is the Canaanite Bible, right? And like I said, I do discuss like a lot of this in the Canaanite, the book, my book, The Canaanite Connection, right? So it says that the clause in that's in Genesis 6 is based on the Ugaritic. So I'm just gonna say this and put this out there. In the Ugaritic text, in the Canaanite theology, there was a pantheon of gods that were a council of gods. This council of gods carried on into Hebrew um, theology. Okay, so these sons of gods or these, divine council are angels or divine beings that are all come together to discuss certain things. So what I see in this story is that Satan is used by God. It is not a separate entity by itself. It's not out here without the consent of the Yahweh figure. Okay, that's that's kind of what we need to look at, right? So let me go back real quick. I wanted to check. I meant to say this earlier when we were talking about Lucifer, right? Because Lucifer is not, Satan. It's a light bearer. I wanted to compare it to because we talked about it was Venus, right? So Venus, if we look at like Babylon, okay, if we look at Sumeria, Babylon, these type of things, right? And remember, Abraham, which is where all the three, religions come from. Remember, Abraham or Abram. Remember, he came out of Samaria, right? He came out of Babylon. So these concepts would have been even known in that region anyway, right? Because he coming from the region, Canaanites they speak a dialect not too far different than the Sumerian language. Hebrew, Aramaic, Canaanite. These are all similar linguistics, and even in Samaria, right? So let's look at this real quick. It says like, okay, so right here they got the star, they got the sun, moon, and the star. Now this is the 8-pointed star is commonly a symbol of Ishtar, along with her brother Shamash and the crescent moon of her father Sin on the boundary stone of, right, dating back to the 12th century BC. Because the movement of Venus appears to be discontinuous, means it disappears due to its proximity to the sun. for many days at a time and then reappears on the horizon. Some cultures did not recognize Venus as a single entity. Instead, they assumed it to be two separate stars on each horizon, the morning star and the evening star. Nevertheless, a cylinder still from it, right? Sumerians associated the planet with the goddess Inanna, who is also known as Ishtar. Okay, so Venus was associated with Ishtar. Okay, also in Egypt, Kemet, it was Set. And so when we look at Rome, it was called Lucifer. And it's fitting that, the Statue of Liberty is a feminine entity, it's woman, and it's considered a Lucifer, right? Okay, so anyway, um, let's look at a little bit more, see if it had anything else to say. It said, like, okay, so an interpretation of this myth by the Hilder holds that in its allegory of the movements of the planet Venus, beginning with the spring equinox and concluding with a meteor shower near the end of one of the synodic period of Venus. The 3-day disappearance of Inanna refers to the 3-day planetary disappearance of Venus between its appearance as morning and evening star. The introductory hymn to this myth describes Inanna leaving the heavens and heading for Ker, the west. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that because I mean, when you're dealing with Lucifer, you're dealing with light, you're dealing with all the ancient people. Like none of this was looked at as evil. Like you got Christians today that would say Ishtar was evil. They would try to find stories of evil things that Ishtar did, and then say, "Oh, Ishtar is evil. Inanna is evil." Right now, I'm not saying that they didn't do things that were bad or looked at as deemed as bad. What I'm saying is they were not looked at as evil entities. So Lucifer is not an evil entity and is not necessarily the same thing as the devil is. The devil is something that comes through Christianity, right? Let's look at the devil. Let's look at the devil because, and this is what we're going to get into. Like I said, y'all in the building, like the video, share the video. I'm gonna check to see something real quick before we get into that. Like I said, heads up, like the video, spread this video. I know y'all got a lot of people that into the Bible and stuff, right? That go around saying this stuff, right? So let me see. All right, so let's look at this. Let's go into it, right? Let's go into this devil. It says it's Christianity, the evil of incarnate in the devil or Satan, the fallen angel, right? This is what we normally used to. This is what we normally hearing. But let's get into it. Let's get into it. If it's gonna go right, I'm like, what's going on? I need to hurry up. Taking all day because I think, like I said, I think this actually it kind of explains when you look at the word the devil. It kind of goes. You see how they say the devil, right? The devil or Satan or the Satan, Ha Satan. the devil, right? Like I said, these between Satan and the devil, those these two were more intertwined. Okay, they're more intertwined. Now, now this right here is where we get the Christians thinking, because the devil is the personification of evil as it is conceived in various cultures and religious traditions. This is the personification. So when we talk about the devil, they're trying to say that if evil could be put into physical form, it's the devil. Okay? It is seen as an objectification of hostile and destructive force. It states that the different conceptions of the devil can be summed up as a principle of evil independent from God. You see that? It is a principle of evil. It says right here, it is independent from God. So the devil, it does its work, it does its evil, it does what it does independent from God. It doesn't need God to do what it does. It doesn't need God to be a destructive force. Now that's important because when we looked at Lucifer, when we looked at Hasatan, these beings were not, number one, they weren't personifications of evil, never described as personifications of evil, never was working independently from God. Now, Lucifer was a god in itself, but it was really like it's really used to describe the light, illumination. Illumination and evil are not synonymous, right? It was never speaking that this illumination was supposed to be independent from God. They are saying right here that the devil is independent from God. An aspect, now it says two, an aspect of God, created from turning evil, a symbol of human evil. Okay. Okay. Now, let's get into it. Each tradition, culture, religion with a devil in its mythos offers a different lens of manifestation of evil. Right here. It occurs historically. It says given many names. See, this is what we're talking about. Satan, Lucifer, Beelzebub, Iblis. Like Beelzebub is not a bad necessarily evil. It says and it attributes it is portrayed as blue, black, or red. It is portrayed as having horns on his head and without horns, and so on. While depiction of the devil is usually taken seriously, there are times when it is treated less seriously. For example, devil figures are used in advertising on candy wrappers. Okay, so let's look at the etymology of it, right. The etymology of this word, the devil, derives from the Middle English devil, from the Old School Diafol, that in turn represents an early Germanic borrowing of the Latin diablos. This is in turn was borrowed from the Greek diablos, meaning slanderer. Okay? So let's look at this though. Let's look at diablos. Let's look at diablos. Let's look at the Latin diablos because this is where it's supposed to come from. Now you notice that Diablos is Latin for one thing. Lucifer is Latin for another thing. They're not the same. They're not. Latin didn't put those together, right? Let's look at this. Let's look at this. This word is not has anything to do with Lucifer. Okay, I'm gonna just get back to it. Let's get back to it. Let's get back to it. But you see how the word it meant slanderer, which it kind of go with Satan. Satan is a slanderer. Satan may be, um, you know, against you in a sense, but it wasn't evil. It wasn't termed as evil. It says that this Jeffrey Russell discusses various meaning and difficulties that encountered when using the term devil. He does not claim to define the word in a general sense, but he describes the limited use that he intends for the book in his the word in his book, limited in order to minimize the difficulty and the sake of clarity in the book. Russell uses the word devil as personification of evil found in various cultures, as opposed to the word Satan, which he reserves specifically for the figure in Abrahamic religions. Hmm. Hmm. There is a difference between the devil and Satan because the devil is more of a Greco Roman understanding, right? Satan is a Hebraic interpretation, and they have two different storylines. They're not the same. Okay. Now, like many people, he says right here, this is what I'm talking about. The Oxford Dictionary has a variety of definitions for the meaning of devil, supported by a range of citations. Devil may refer to Satan, the supreme spirit of evil, or one of Satan's emissaries. Right? The word devil has a various connotations to it. Okay. Now this is interesting because this is the Baha'i faith. If y'all know, it's a malevolent superhuman entity such as the devil or Satan is not believed to exist. These terms do, however, appear in the writings, where they are used as metaphors for the lower nature of man. Human beings are seen to have free will and thus able to turn towards God and develop spiritual qualities, or turn away from God and become immersed in self centered desires. Hmm. Okay, so now we're getting somewhere. Because when you start looking at it from an occult perspective, Satan, the devil, if you will, is not a real entity. These are states of mind. These are dealing with higher self and lower self. And so when we talk about, higher self is heavenly. Lower self is supposed to be, hell like. So they associate doing things of self centeredness with Satan. So it kind of reminds me, it kind of takes me to if any of you guys watch Star Wars or into Star Wars, you understand that there's something called the Force. And in the Force, you have basically you got two main forces, and you got the force of the Jedi, and then you got the Sith. So like the Sith are like what the Baha'i faith say. they are into developing self-centered desires, using the power for self-centeredness, while the Jedi are supposed to use it to turn to God and develop his spiritual qualities. So, um, in the Force, when you watch Star Wars, there are you got the so-called good and the bad, but then you also have people who have the Force who are neither good or bad. They can do either or. So, the Force kind of is like it symbolized, the power, and that you have different deities that can use this power for certain things. They can tap into it. So when you're talking about, the devil is man. Man is the devil. The term the devil really is the term that I would use to describe um, the evil that the Christians are talking about. I wouldn't use Satan because Satan is not a Christian deity. Um, it's a Hebrew deity that has a purpose. Lucifer is a deity that describes some this has a description of light, the light bearer. So I mean, I just want us to stop using these terms loosely because they all have a meaning. They all have power. They have vibrations, and when you use them, you need to use them in their proper vibration. Okay, so that's really what I wanted to get into. I was first of all, I wanted to test this out, right? I wanted to test out the new system. Y'all let me know in the comment section if you like this format, because hopefully I'll be using it more because it seems to run better. If you notice, I really didn't have a blackout, right? So it does seem to work, but there's some kinks in here, I need to figure out, right? So, um, like I say, I hope y'all enjoyed this. Please like this video, subscribe, um, you know, and please send this video out. Let other people get this information, and please, feel free to add on in the comment section. So until the next video, y'all. Peace. Tutanana. We out. Peace and love. Peace and love. What it do?